as being some kind of holiday, whatever time of day it is, wherever you think you are or seem to be in this floating world. In case you're not familiar with it, that's a traditional Buddhist term. This Saha world, floating or dewdrop like world, beautiful, glistening, shining, moist, juicy like a dewdrop, but also tenuous, vulnerable, fleeting, something to appreciate and cherish while we have it, while we're part of it. We too would like the dewdrops on the morning grass, as it says in Buddhist poems. So carpe diem, as they say, seize the moment. Don't hold on to it, but right now, yes. Because it's the only place, the only time we can ever be anyway. Why fool ourselves? Let's align ourselves with reality without getting into philosophical definitions and arguments about what reality is. But just being here and now, just breathing, just sitting, just being together, interbeing, co-meditating, whatever you want to call it. Just being together, align ourselves. Sometimes in yoga, we imagine a line like coming from the zenith, the top of the sky, down, or like a silver thread down to our crown chakra and down our spinal column and down our bottom and to the ground, to the center of the earth, the center of gravity, and just align with that, the still axis at the center of the turning wheel, and come home to that kind of alignment. As a genius body working consciousness raiser, I think it was Moshe Feldenkrais, founder of the Feldenkrais movement work, said the best posture is standing naturally and relaxed. I love that. It goes well with the idea of the natural great perfection. So aligning ourselves in the here and now, beyond time and space, it's the empty axis at the center of the wheel that makes it possible. While the hub, the rim, the spokes are turning, the wheel of samsara, the wheel of time and space, the cosmic wheel, the cosmic universe, the inner galaxy. And yet we can find that still eye at the center of the storm, that unmoved axis at the center of the axle, in the center of the turning wheel of samsara, of becoming. Or as it says in the ancient Eastern Asian scriptures about rebirth, reincarnation, it's like a water wheel turning, filling its compartments, its buckets, and turning, going around and emptying them again, life after life. Or beyond belief systems and cosmology, moment after moment, just moment, only moment, full empty, filling, emptying, breathing out and breathing in, sequentially, but also simultaneously pulsing like a pulsar star, like prana, subtle energy, pure energy or vibration. Aligning ourselves, coming home to ourselves, assuming our Buddha seat. It's a beautiful thing to do. It brings us home to basic sanity, wholeness, wellness, contentment, just being, nothing more to do. Remember, figure out, or achieve right now. Nowhere to go. We've arrived. How rare is that? Can you allow yourself to arrive and to just be here now, be content, and leave it as it is, and enjoy and savor this marvelous instant, this beautiful day? What a beautiful day it is. Just breathing in and breathing out makes it so, and more so. This beautiful spring day. If you're in the summer hemisphere, I don't know what to say. This beautiful day. Every day is a beautiful day when you're beautiful. The Dharma is beautiful, as 'tis said. Beautiful, good, nourishing, in the beginning, in the middle, and in the end, which are all here right now. aligning ourselves in the here and now with an upright posture, with an upright character, riding our floundering ship in the choppy waves of the sea of samsara, of desire. It's all desire, wanting and unwanting, attraction and aversion. As soon as I get off my meditation cushion, noticing myself fall back into that, the wanting and unwanting, which is really one just kind of attachment, wanting things to be different than they are, wanting and unwanting, attraction and aversion, and holding on to those ideas and being disappointed, irritated if it doesn't go the way I want. Check it out, see if that's not the case for oneself. Alignment, just breathing, centering in the body, on the seat. Assume your Buddha seat, that's what I call it. Don't get hung up on the notion of Buddha, old or young, religious or not, Asian, gender, anything. Assume your true seat, just sitting. Come home to yourself, to your body, to your breath, to your energy, to your heart and mind, body and soul. Why live in your head? Why live at a certain distance from your body like Leopold Bloom? Come home to oneself. This is the practice. Buddhists call mindful living, not mindless living, sleepwalking, heedless, having all kinds of so-called accidents through heedlessness, through mindlessness. In this Buddhist path of awakened living, cultivation is the essential ingredient. Cultivating mindfulness, cultivating unselfish generosity, loving kindness, and compassion, being with others, feeling with them, resonating with them, moving with them, perhaps being moved to help. Alignment with ourselves, with our higher selves, if you think of it that way, with each other, cleaving to the high ground, aligned with our best selves, our values, our principles, not just momentary desires or sexual gratification, not being blown hither and yon, as they used to say, not being blown here and there by the 8 worldly winds, as Buddhism calls it, pleasure and pain, vacillating between those two polarities, loss and gain, fame and shame, and the last pair, hard to translate, criticism and appreciation, not being swayed, sometimes having to go against the current or do what's unpopular, have to get up in the morning on Monday and go to work, even though it's not pleasurable. But it's gratifying in the long term for the paycheck, for the family, put a roof over one's head and food on the table for everyone. So not being blown off course by vacillating between pleasure and pain, loss and gain, and these other dichotomies, being centered in principles and values, being aligned, being here now, not there then. We can never be there then, it's only here now. Let's check that out, let's get used to it. Remembering is nowness awareness at work, present awareness, remembering. Planning and fantasizing about the future is also nowness awareness, planning and fantasizing. We're not living in the past or the future when we're remembering or fantasizing. Recognize this all pervasive, potent, present awareness, nowness awareness with a hyphen, Tate Shepa in Tibetan. Trungpa Rinpoche called it Tamalgi Shepa, TGS. Everyday mind, everyday awareness. Naturalness is the way. Not adding another head onto our own or trying to look like an Asian or like imitate our guru's lifestyle or hairstyle, but imitating our true self, our higher self, translocating from the ego to our supreme self, our transpersonal being with a capital B, our Buddha-ness, our inner divinity, translocating, putting the ego pot on the back burner for once and bringing forward our best self, our highest angels, etc. And becoming more fluid, in shifting those gears, no problem. Just not being under this wave of egotism all the time and becoming a selfish bastard, a narcissist, a solipsist, so self-centered. But connecting, empathizing, feeling and resonating with others, and moving together, maybe even being moved to help as needed, if needed. Not needed by our own ego needs, but called for by the situation. So when we practice in this Mahayana Buddhist tradition, the great vehicle intent upon the categorical imperative of universal liberation, not just self-help, not just self-improvement or personal development, recognizing what others want and need, we want and need, and we're all in the same boat, rise and fall, sink or swim together. We can go further, we go deeper, letting go of selfish preoccupations, growing up, maturing, opening to unconditional love, not just transactional business investing love. If I do this for you, what will you do for me? And so on. Unconditional love, like in the best cases we feel for our children, whether they're grateful or not, whether they're ungrateful teenagers or not, we're still there for them totally, always, forever. Not that it's always easy. But big love, unconditional love, is so much greater than the dichotomies and polarities of like and dislike. And that's what we cultivate. Cultivation, bhavana, is the key word in Buddhism. We don't hear enough about it because it's a foreign word. We hear about mindfulness, loving kindness, and these things. Now all we hear about it is resilience and etc. That's fine. It's good to be flexible, resourceful, perseverant, all of these things. Now it's called resilience. That's good. Good word. So we don't give up. Life is challenging. We go on. We go on together. We find help and reliance from each other. Let's take refuge in Sangha, rely on Sangha community. Take refuge in Dharma, in wisdom and wisdom practices, cultivating them. Take refuge in Buddha, in enlightenment itself, in the possibility, the ultimate potential of self-actualization, awakening, Buddhahood. Aligning ourselves with those principles, which are in us, not outside. That's why the masters say everything we seek is within. It doesn't just mean within me, and that I should just be self-centered, forget about others. Within everyone, within every moment, within everything, within every encounter. Every encounter could be meaningful when you have the bodhisattva vow of altruistic compassion, recognizing everybody wants and needs the same as we do for ourselves and our loved ones. The categorical imperative to do what's of the greatest good for the greatest number, not just for oneself, collecting all the marbles, seeking security, trying to build a concrete bunker of safety and security in this saha, floating, impermanent, tenuous life world, where no one is guaranteed how many decades or how many years they'll live. So it's a beautiful spring day here in the Pilgrim State, Massachusetts. The Red Sox are in first place. It's a great day. We have our priorities here. We're equal to all. We love all equally, but our Boston team's the most. As I hope you love your home and your home team and your home family and your home self the most. Not even in a comparative sense, just as it should be. As it should be. In balance, the most, and yet recognizing others love theirs the most. That's how it is, seeing it through their eyes, not that different than ours. I don't know how we're going to resolve the ongoing, endless partisanship and wars between the different belief systems, whether it's the political partisanship across the aisles in our nation's capital, or our dividing between red and blue states. I don't know if we have to have a civil war, but these wars are going on all over the world continuously. Others of us in northern and southern, in Ireland, the Palestinians and the Jews, the North and the South Koreans, the Tutsis and the Hutus in Africa, the Shiites and the Sunnis. I'm a student of world religions. I still can't sort one Muslim branch from another very easily, because we're all in it together. It's just what uniforms are wearing in the game. As the Native American saying goes, if we want to know where someone's coming from, walk a mile through in their moccasins. It means try to see it through their eyes. Everybody has their point of view. I'm going to drop this bomb here. I can guarantee you, if you had been raised and grew up where your enemy, your competitor, your critic, where the quote other unquote comes from, you would hold their views. I don't want to go into this about Nazi youth, but I joined the Cub Scouts, I joined the Little League. If I had grown up in Germany in the 1920s or 30s, I assume my friends and I would have been in it, as was Kurt Waldheim, the wonderful leader of the UN for so long, who got in trouble later in retrospect because he was part of the Nazi youth. I don't think he was an SS stormtrooper. But if we grew up where others came from, we'd be them. We are them. That's the secret. Don't overlook it. Them or us, as they say in the toy business. Them or us. I know this can be controversial. I know the inner lawyer likes to jump to the biggest, worst, bogeyman. Oh, I would never do what Hitler did. Well, somebody loved Hitler too, probably his mother, his wife, Eva Braun, his dogs. Hitler had dogs. He loved his dogs, and they loved him, I guess. He was a vegetarian, which sounds surprising. Everybody has many facets. We're all so much similar biologically, biochemically, mortality, impermanence, family, homeland. We all have similar insecurities and anxieties and struggles with the world. And a challenging and difficult world it is, especially today. Look around, what's going on. Not just the pandemic, how about environmental degradation and crisis? How about the injustices and inequities of the world? So many things we could mention. I hope you're aware of them and doing your part. Nobody can do it all, and no one is exempt from participating. So let's begin doing our part. Just to speak personally, I've kept my big mouth relatively shut for 70 years about my own personal practice and experiences and thinking in some ways. But I found that I can't just sit at home on my meditation seat like a Buddha, feeling content when the world around me is falling apart, the environment, the political situation, the socioeconomics, the racism and prejudice, the hatred and anger, unprocessed psychological issues leading to war and violence, domestic violence, violence in the world. We have to take responsibility for that. We're all part of it and see what we can do about it. Even teenagers like Greta Thunberg are kicking ass to make a difference in the world. What's our excuse? Even 4'11" nuns from Albania like Mother Teresa kicked ass in the name of love and compassion and caring for the most unfortunate people in the world, the streets of Calcutta. What's our excuse? Even Helen Keller. I don't know the politically correct words, so I'm just going to blurt it out. Forgive me. Practically born blind, deaf, and dumb. Maybe she got that way when she was 4 from a disease. I can't remember. Overcoming those obstacles to be an ombudsman, a spokesperson for all those similarly impaired, disabled, disadvantaged. It's a huge inspiration to me. I grew up a jock. I remember Wilma Rudolph, the greatest athlete in the world, male or female, who grew up with rickets, which is a leg disease like polio, becoming the greatest athlete in the world. Her mother drove her for 3 or 4 hours every day for treatment down there in poverty-stricken Tennessee in the old days, the 1930s. You can imagine what kind of medicine they had for her to cure her, to help her train, to help her overcome that. Wilma Rudolph, check it out, voted internationally the athlete of the year back then, Olympic champion with rickets in her younger years. People are so overcoming, people are struggling, people are striving. Our ancestors did so much to come to this country, ideally, so we could have a better life. Whether it's the pilgrims who came here to Massachusetts and Virginia long ago, or Eastern Europeans who came here, my grandparents and great grandparents and some of yours. It's a little late for us to turn our backs on them then, build walls around our heart and around our borders, don't you think? Including all here in our hearts, in our minds and thoughts, in our efforts, in sharing, in inclusivity, in equality. Recognizing unity in diversity and appreciating diversity, not just wanting everything to be white like cream cheese, like vanilla. Who wants to go to Baskin Robbins and only get vanilla when there's 10,000 flavors available? At least we could try one or two others. So as we practice here, I find this is the best thing I can do to contribute. I was in the 60s peace movements against the Vietnam War, or as Thich Nhat Hanh said, we're not against anything, we're for peace and harmony. Bodhisattva is a spiritual and social activist working for the greatest good, for the greatest number, for universal liberation. For me, if it wasn't for meditation and contemplative practices and spiritual life, I'd probably be dead now. And from some bad habit, COVID or some disease. It saved my life. I offer it to you. We're sharing this together. Just breathing, relaxing, and smiling. Just getting together like this on Sunday or any day. Every day is a Sabbath. It's a beautiful day to get together in the spirit and raise the spirit, open our hearts to each other, and join hearts and hands and heads. And for me, the greatest contribution we can do is this spiritual awakening, the spiritual life, whatever you call it. Humanism, love in action, a life of principles, values, and consciousness, not materialism. No matter how much we have in the bank, our happiness quotient is something different, as we well know. As we well know. So let's breathe, relax, smile, center, align ourselves, come home to ourselves. Rest in the very center of being. I know that's a little abstract, so just sit on your seat, breathe, relax, and smile. That's the practical instruction. Resting in the origin of all things, or just letting go and letting be. That's the secret of non-attachment, of equanimity, of spiritual detachment and objectivity. When I become clear, everything becomes clearer. Letting go means letting things come and go, flow, letting be. It's the secret. I'm highlighting it here. Don't miss out. Don't get lost in the thicket, the jungle of doctrines and philosophies and ideas. Come down from the conning tower in the head, the ivory tower, into the heart, into the solar plexus, the diaphragm, the anus, if you like, Bodhi, without assholes, stuck. Come down from the conning tower in the head, the arid desert of intellect, into the juicy, warm oasis sanctuary of the heart, of the body, of the stomach, the navel chakra, of feeling, the oasis of feeling, just feeling, no one feeling it, this moment, only moment, just hearing, nothing to listen for, no one hearing it, just pure process. Aware of awareness, self-awareness, aware of awareness, nowness awareness, naked awareness, innate wakefulness. What words can we use? The FD and ineffable, the animating principle, the living spirit, the clear light by which we see and are seen, The eyes through which we look for or look at Buddha is the eyes through which they look at we. Trying to get the right pronouns here, it's challenging. Meister Eckhart, that patriarchal dog, the great mystic of Middle Ages of Europe, he said, the eye through which I see God is the eye through which he sees me. How profound, how non-dual. Great transparent eyeball, as Ralph Waldo Emerson called it. Let's tune into that. Let's be that. Not thinking about the goal or some pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. There's no pot of gold at the end of the rainbow. The rainbow's a circle when seen from above. Look it up. Every step of the way is rainbow. Being there while getting there, every step of the way, that's what I call it. Being here while getting there, every step of the way. Not leaning forward for the next thing all the time and staggering forward under the burden of the momentum of conditioning on your to-do list. Life is not a to-do list. Step off the treadmill, the gerbil wheel, and just stand for a moment. Breathe and smile. Just sit, relax, breathe, center, smile, align, center, rest in the origin of all things. Assume your Buddhacy. What words can encompass it? Breathing, sitting, being, natural body, natural breath and energy, third, natural mind, the three pillars of natural meditations, Dzogchen meditation, sitting Buddha, being Buddha. Buddha is you. There's a whole theology behind it. Don't worry. But it's summed up in Buddha is you. Duh. Not knowing more or less than that is enough. Beyond concepts, no mind. It's called Zen. Pure intuition, pure presence, Rigpa, Tibetan awareness alone. The higher power. Awareness with a capital A plus, pure presence with a capital P, cultivating presence, or what I call presencing. Aware of breathing, aware of sitting, physical sensations in the body, and third, aware of just being, mind to mind, awareness, aware of awareness, beyond outside or inside, good or bad, up or down, self or other. Imaho. Zampo. Enjoy the joy, the buoyance, the incandescent lucidity or illumination of natural meditation, Dzogchen meditation, awareness alone. This moment, only moment. This breath, only breath. Imaho, wondrous, miraculous, Eureka, Hallelujah, Swaha, Amen. Thank you. Imaho. Somebody has their mic on and is typing and rattling. I don't know. Can you fix that, please? Thank you. Thank you. The Wizard of Oz. Big out breath, releasing, relaxing, letting go. Yo, Timo. Ho ho. Imaho. I love yo. All you beautiful Buddha beings, all worried about what's wrong with you and what's wrong with the world. You're so beautiful. All my children. I'm child too, of you. Works both ways. Don't be fooled. Thank you. Making peace ourselves, being aligned, harmonious, making peace in the world. starting with ourselves here and each other. Shanti, peace, harmony, acceptance, love, bliss. Satchidananda. Blissful awareness, truth. Way to go. Allen Ginsberg, in a long poem which I recommend to you, called Why I Sit. It might call it Why I Meditate. Allen Ginsberg says, I sit for world revolution. I sit for peace. I sit because I sit. Ah, what a relief, what a release. Ah, dropping everything. Ah, then sensing who or what is present. If you don't know, just don't know for a moment. That could be the truest thought you have all day. You know, you can't believe whatever you think. Just breathe, relax, and smile. If you don't feel like smiling, just breathe and relax. At least just keep breathing. It's a very important Buddhist practice. Life, inspiration and expiration, how sweet it is. The living spirit, wakeful. What a gift. That's what it's called, the present. Oh, wondrous, miraculous, amazing. Enjoy the joy of natural meditation, of just being in the light, as the light of the light, be the light. Lighten up, lighten up, friends. Why not? Embrace the shadow. Shadows are nothing but light. Don't be fooled. Fivefold ahs of Dzogchen, the innate great completeness. Om Mani Padme Hum Re. Om Mani Padme Hum Re. Om Mani Padme Hum Re. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum Re. Om Mani Padme Hum Re. Om Mani Padme Hum Re. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum. Om Mani Padme Hum Re. Om Mani Padme Hum Re. Om Mani Padme Hum Re. Om Mani Padme Hum. 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 Om Mani Padme Hum Re. 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 Om Mani Padme Hum. Join in, please, if you wish, or just hum along. Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore. Don't be self-conscious. This is a Buddhist prayer. No one's listening. Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore. Homage to great compassion and unconditional love. Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore. Imaged as the archetype, Avalokita, Chenrezig, Kuan Yin, the Buddha of love and compassion. Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore. May all beings be happy, peaceful, content, fulfilled, safe, free from harm and danger. Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore. Singing is believing. Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore. May there be peace and happiness and love in the world, harmony, and an end to strife and selfishness, cruelty, inequality, injustice, and oppression. Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore. May all be liberated, free, awakened, liberated, realized. Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore, Om Mani Padme Hore. So deso Lama Chenrezig, so deso Yiran Chenrezig, so deso Gompo Chenrezig, so deso Sanjay Chenrezig. Homage to Chenrezig, the Buddha of love, and unconditional love, and selfless compassion, equanimity equal to all, joy, forgiveness, mercy, tenderness. They say loving kindness is the greatest protector. Compassion is the greatest armor that protects us from our own negative deeds, thoughts, and words. Let's cultivate that, embody it, and bring it into the world. O Lord of love and compassion, purify and transform us, purify and transform the world, purify us into pure channels, so your compassionate, transformative, liberating Buddha activity can come through us, so we can be a light in this benighted world. Could we see the Bodhisattva 4 vows translated from the Japanese page, please, in the Dzogchen prayer book, the 4 Bodhisattva vows, so we can chant them, read them, affirm them together. There it is. Thank you. This is from Japanese. I like this formulation. Sentient being. This is how it's chanted in Japanese, in Japan, in English. Sentient beings are numberless. We vow to count them. I mean, liberate them. The illusions are inexhaustible. We vow to transcend them. Dharma teachings are boundless. We vow to penetrate them, realize them. The Buddha's enlightened way is unsurpassable. We vow to embody it. Bong. Thank you. I lived in Japan for 1 year studying Zen and working. In 1974, 1975, after a few years in India, I ran out of money. I had sold my blue jeans jacket on Freak Street in Kathmandu to stay another few months. I sold my Parker pen that my father gave me for graduating college. I sold my watch, which wasn't that great, but it got me another few months. It was a lot of rupees, Indian rupees in those days, Nepali rupees. I studied Zen. I went to Zen sessions. I love Japanese poetry, haiku, and Zen Buddhism. I was working there so I could go back to India. I saved money and then went back to India to Kala Rinpoche's monastery in Darjeeling, West Bengal, for another few years in the late 70s. It was a good time. Every country in the East has its own form of Buddhism, as well as indigenous religion. Shinto was there when Buddhism came. Shinto is the indigenous religion of Japan when Buddhism came in around the 3rd, 4th, 5th century. Christianity is also somewhat popular there. It came with the missionaries in the 16, 17, 1800s. Each country has its own color of robes, its own emphasis, its own chanting, its own different languages and ritual music, its own style of the philosophy. But all of the northern Buddhist countries have the Mahayana Buddhist philosophy, like Japan, Korea, Mongolia, Tibet, Nepal, and so on, Ladakh, Bhutan, Sikkim. Southern Buddhism is found in Sri Lanka, Thailand, Vietnam, Burma, and so forth. So I love these prayers translated with different emphasis over the millennia, all stemming from the original Bodhisattva vows and the Siddhas of India, the adepts, the enlightened ones who came after the time of Buddha. I mean, even before the time of Buddha, I'm sure there were plenty. And now have crossed the land bridge all the way to the west over the last century or two. One world, Buddha world, when we have eyes to see it. We don't even need the word Buddha if it sounds too foreign. One spirit, one heart, what can we say? Beyond notions like oneness or two-ness or noneness, even for that matter. All just finger painting. All languages are weak translations of the ineffable and yet experienceable, profound reality. I believe this is the best that we can do in the world, but everybody has to find out for themselves how to spend their life and why, and what the purpose and meaning is, how to make a contribution, how to live, and what sustains us. Very important, big question. What sustains us? One of the 24 etymological meanings of the word Dharma. People usually call Buddhism Dharma, but that's not very correct. Hinduism is also Dharma. Dharma means spirituality or wisdom. Like Torah is not a book. Torah means Dharma in Judaism. Like, what is your Torah? What is your Dharma? What is your spiritual life like? So one of the 24 etymological meanings of the word dharma is that which upholds, that which supports. Dr means the underpinnings. So you could say that the dharma is what supports us, what upholds us, what sustains us. The spirit, the truth, the reality, beyond what we think. We might think our job sustains us. We might think our, community sustains us, and it does. But all these things are a little relative to what really sustains us. Some, theists would say that the divine sustains us. That's fine. But it's divine all the way down. There's no separation between heaven and earth, just like the sky is right here, not just up there. And we are the bridge between heaven and earth, divinity and mortality. All sentient beings, not just middle-aged white people, like I see on this page. All sentient beings, not just Buddhists or humans, all sentient beings endowed with the luminous Buddha nature or divine essence, divine potential. Oh, look, we have some young people here. Thank you. So beautiful. In fact, we have many people young at heart. How beautiful. Thank you. Any questions, please, before we have the last rites on this beautiful day? Somebody said, every time you teach in these recent years, you say it's a beautiful day. I was very gratified to hear that. I had never really thought of it that way. It just kind of kept coming out every time. Maybe it's my signature, like Edward R. Murrow always used to say good night and good luck after his historic broadcasts. Like from London during the bombing of London, he used to say that even. Anyway, good day and good luck. God luck, that's what I always say. God luck. Right, Leslie? Vincent, happy birthday. 1 year older. You're going to run out of numbers soon.
Lama, I actually have a question. We haven't received any questions from anybody, so I actually got one. I don't know if I'm going to get in trouble.
Are you allowed to ask questions, Ben?
I asked Menla. She said I couldn't if there weren't any other ones. So.
Okay, well, if Menla says so.
I have been authorized. Okay, so you mentioned Satchitananda, truth, consciousness, and bliss.
Yes,
I love. I tend to think of that as Buddha nature. But then, the mark of a Buddhist teaching is anicca, anatta, and dukkha, and they seem to, it's like those two things are like, they feel like they're so far apart, and yet, of course, they're not in a way. But then, there's this part of me that runs up against, am I, where am I with this? So that's sort of my question.
Well, you're a young person, so there are many parts of oneself that you run up against. Like you're a lifelong musician, but you're also a yogi and yoga teacher. So those might seem contradictory at times. Well, if looked at from outside. Another example, Satchitananda is a phrase or a expression that comes from the Upanishads, the Hindu scriptures. Tell us again what it means in English.
Truth, consciousness, and bliss.
Yes.
One translation.
Right. Satchitananda. And what is it again? The three marks of a Buddhist teacher? Anicca, anatta, and shmata. What did you say?
Anicca is
in English. Fine.
Yeah, impermanence, anatta is no self, and dukkha is suffering.
So that's a Buddhist teaching. So, it's okay to compare citrus fruits because they're very similar, but also lemons and grapefruits are different than oranges and tangerines. They're sweet and they're sour and there's, yellow and there's orange and there's size and there's peeling and not peeling, but they're all citrus fruits. So these are all religious or spiritual, wisdom maxims or tight, like little phrases that unpacked give a whole teaching. Like the Trinity in Christianity is a whole teaching. It's not enough just to say, God, offspring, and this Holy Spirit in between. What does that mean? And yet the Trinity is so important. So you can't really compare them. So it's okay to say it's the same. And there's a little different valence, as you said. So it's hard to see them as put together. So impermanence, no separate independent self, and dissatisfactoriness, the three characteristics of existence according to Buddha, is one formulation. It's a little different than Satchidananda about blissful truth consciousness or whatever that you find in the ancient Upanishads. And so they have a different use or emphasis. So it may, it's like Hinduism and Buddhism seem very different, just like Christianity and Judaism. But, you have to understand that Christianity came from Judaism. The New Testament comes from the Old Testament and is based in it. And Jesus was a Jew, and they called him rabbi. So Buddha was a Hindu. So these things are, related but not the same. So it's like left and right hand or something, or two sides of one hand. I hope that's helpful without going into a lot of philosophy.
Very helpful. Thank you, Lama. And that's it. Perfect timing. We've reached the end of another wonderful town hall. Thank you, everybody, so much for joining. Again, we've got our summer retreat, which is a really, really special way to experience the practice. It's July 23rd to 25th. As always, if you are appreciating these teachings, please consider making a donation to the Dzogchen Foundation or becoming a member. And the links are here in the chat. Thank you so much, Lama.
Thank you, everybody, for you beautiful Buddha beings. Thanks, Ben Beers of Berlin, the triple B. Take care. Stay aware.